Writing section, write essay, guided practice. Let's begin. Here's the first question for you. You may pause this video for 20 minutes. Come back once you've written the essay and we can resume from there. Welcome back. I hope you've written a really good essay. We'll discuss this shortly. First, let's have a look at a sample response. Here it is. Now, the very first step, as you know by now, when writing an essay, an academic essay for PTE, is to understand the essay topic, the prompt that's given to you. The way we communicate has changed drastically in the recent years. Do you think this has had more positive or negative impact on our lives and on society in general? Support your answer with suitable arguments. So the first thing that they say is that the way we communicate, that has changed a lot in the recent years. And then they ask you, do you think this is good or bad? Has it had more positive impact or more negative impact? On what? On our lives and on society in general. So that means when you write your essay, make sure to account for the impact on our lives as well as on the society in general. You don't have to write just about what the changes are in the way of communication or how communication has changed drastically in the recent years. You have to talk about the impact of those changes. So I hope you're clear, and it's important to understand that difference, because if you don't understand that difference, then you can end up writing a very different essay. Okay. So once you have done that, then what is the stand that you will take? In this sample, in this example, the writer says that there are both merits and demerits to this trend. So that means middle of the road. We'll write something to support some arguments. We'll acknowledge that there is a positive impact, and some arguments will acknowledge that there is also some negative impact. And this is a good idea because it makes it easier to come up with points and to meet the word limit. A lot of people, they struggle with the word limit. So acknowledging both sides makes it easier to come up with the points and meet that word limit. After that, now let's think of 2 or 3 points, because that's what you need for this essay. The 4 paragraphs, and in the middle 2 paragraphs, if you come up with 2 or 3 good points, that is sufficient. Of course, you can also come up with 4 points and then discuss those 4 points in the 2 paragraphs, but 2 or 3 points is also more than enough. We discussed this earlier. How do you come up with points? You think about some of the keywords in the essay prompt. Here, communication, the way we talk, that has changed. And when you think of that, communication, what comes to your mind? You're talking to friends, you're talking to family, you're giving speeches, you're speaking at office, we're writing emails, we are texting, we are not talking face to face, mobile phones. So you see, there are a lot of things that come to your mind. And when you look at that, then you start thinking of all these things and what's the impact that these things have had, right? For example, there's less face-to-face interaction when we communicate now. So people are more distant, express themselves freely. So those can be the negative impact. It has reduced meaningful interactions. And on the other hand, the positive impact, everything is faster. We no longer have to wait for weeks to receive somebody's letter. You can see when you start thinking, take the first couple of words and use them as a seed. They will lead you to a few words, and then you can take those few words and expand them further. And that way you can come up with as many ideas as you want. After that, you have the ideas now, then start writing according to a 4 paragraph structure. So first, just write briefly, start the introduction. In the next 2 paragraphs, just write the first few words of each point and then the conclusion. Then come back and complete. It's almost like fill in the blanks. You first wrote some hints or just some partial guidelines, and now you're coming back to complete those sentences. So iterations like these are helpful. If you just think that I'll start from the top and then I'll only finish at the last word, then in the middle, by the time you come to the second paragraph, there's a risk that you can get confused. You can start doubting yourself. You can repeat your points. But if you have previously created a structure, a skeleton, and clearly marked what you're going to write there, it avoids confusion, it saves time, it avoids any repetition. Okay. So you fill those 4 paragraphs, and after every few sentences, make sure to quickly look and ask yourself that, am I still writing on track? Am I writing about the impact of the changes? Or have I started writing about communication in general or society in general or some other related aspect, which is valid, but just should not be a focus of this essay? Okay. So you have to constantly ask yourself. Then, once you've written, in the last 2 or 3 minutes, go back and review again. Check for vocabulary, for grammar. Make sure you have used the right linking words the way you should. If you think you need to give an example to make something clearer, do that. If you need to fill in something to meet the word requirement, then come up with an example, add an example somewhere. Okay. If you think you can, you look at some words and you think they're too simple or too basic, and see if you can come up with some better, more academic kind of synonyms for them, more formal words if you can come up with. So do all of that in the last 2-3 minutes. It will greatly improve your essay. Okay. Time to move on to the next question now. Again, pause for 20 minutes and then come back once you have written the essay. Welcome back. Here is a sample response. Now, the first step, let's understand what the essay topic is and what the prompt suggests, asks us to do. So it is education is not a luxury, but a basic human right, and as such should be free for everyone, irrespective of personal wealth. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? So what's the statement? That education is not luxury, but a basic human right, and it should be free for everybody. Whether they have a lot of money or no money, it should be free for everybody. And now, do you agree or disagree? And to what extent? Then give arguments to support your answer. In this case, the writer has said this proposition merits little consideration and should be rejected, as one can see several strong elements against it. So, in this case, the writer actually thinks that education should not be free for everyone because there it can have some serious repercussions. However, if you think education should be free for everyone, irrespective of the money that they have or not, then write about that. Or, as we have discussed earlier, you can say some points in agreement and some points in disagreement as well. Now, in this case, the writer is opposing this, is disagreeing with this statement. And the next step is to come up with some key points. So why education should not be free for everyone? So if you have to come up with some points to support this, then the keywords are education, free, money. And when you expand these, then when you think free education, what comes to your mind? People spending too much time in college, taking many courses more than they should. Then you also think about all the expenditure on the government, the loans, people not valuing what they are getting for free. So all these, and a lot of graduates, again, many of which probably were not suitable or not capable, but now they all will demand jobs and they will all compete for the same things. So it can create some kind of an imbalance in the society, in the professional fields as well. So all those are points against the statement that education should be free for everyone. So once you've come up with those points, then you arrange them in paragraphs as we discussed earlier. And in the end, in the last 2 or 3 minutes, you should do a review of that. Okay. Now, I want you to review the essay that you have written and see how it fits the criteria that we just discussed. That when you were writing it, did you follow the steps? What's the kind of language that you have used? What kind of vocabulary you have used in your essay response? Have you used the right linking words? Have you connected the paragraphs properly? Is there any repetition in your essay? Many times I've seen people, they start a point in the second paragraph, then they don't fully elaborate it, expand that point. They go to the next point in the second line, and then the third paragraph, they come back to the previous point. You don't have to do that. You should not never do that. When you start a point, elaborate it, expand it, and complete it fully, properly. And only then go to the next point. And there's no need to come back to the previous point. All right. So we're doing this practice so that you can also compare your responses and compare them with the sample responses and see how you have done.